digital identity and protection.
Hello, beautiful people. Thanks for hanging out in the late afternoon here. My name is Phil Runyan. I am the co-founder of NiftyCo. We are a Web3 development company, which is really just a fancy way of saying we get together a few times a year, we think up harebrained ideas, and then we ask people far smarter than ourselves to tell us whether or not it's bullshit or if it carries water. And then we develop it, and then we put it into market. So with that said, our focus is really heavily on finding ways to democratize access to Web3. I don't know if you've noticed the people talking up here today, a lot of talk about private keys, and a lot of crypto toys for crypto boys, and there's a shit ton of dudes in this space. Let's just be very honest about that. We want to make access as simple so that grandma can be able to use it. So what is Web3? We keep hearing this term today, but I get the feeling that a lot of people still have some giant questions about it. So for the 12 people in the audience who are actually sitting in the seated area, does anybody really know what Web3 is, or does this just sound like buzzword bingo? Excellent, nobody raised their hand. I was getting kind of panicked that somebody actually did know. So before we go down the rabbit hole of Web3, let's first discuss what Web 1 and Web 2 are and how we got here. Web 1 is the read-only version of the internet. This is where, back in the day, mid-90s, you would do a Lycos or an Alta Vista search. And I'm fairly certain I just dated myself right there. This is pre-Google, right? Businesses would list websites and pages. You would do a search, and boom, you would be able to ingest the content. Web 2 came the social network, the creator economies, and with that, the abuse of data aggregation and resale. We freely gave up our personal data in exchange for pictures of our friends' dinners on Instagram, or our family vacations on Facebook, where we would take them, or the partners we would take on OnlyFans. Jimmy knows what I'm talking about. So in Web 3, we call this the read, write, own iteration of the web, excuse me. And the reason being is because we now own our own data. We are able to buy, sell, and transact directly with people without any sort of intermediary. This goes with an NFT or even our own money. We can hold them in self-custody wallets. I can send anybody, anytime, any amount of money I see fit, and I don't have to wait for a bank to tell me whether or not I can or cannot. Today, a lot of talk of Web3 revolves around pictures of monkeys, all right? Let's be honest here. NFTs, kind of hokey, but it's a great intro, right? Because tomorrow, it's going to be your kids' Fortnite skins, where they will have the opportunity, once they've decided maybe they don't want to play anymore, maybe they don't want one, that they can actually just sell this without retribution from Epic Games. It will look like access to in real life events, or better yet, in real life clubs and services, to where first movers get additional perks. What happens typically when you decide you don't want to pay that membership anymore, you don't want to participate in that club? You lose all of it. So in Web 3, because you own these things, if there's a value there, a perceived value, or somebody else feels that there's a value, instead of just losing all that time, money, and effort that you've dumped into these services, you can now monetize it. You can sell it because you, in fact, do own it. I mean, think. Could you imagine if you bought a CD or even your couch and you went to sell it and the manufacturer came back and was like, whoa, you can't do that. Bring it back. And it's absolutely absurd. We can do these things with digital items through the utilization of blockchain technology. Blockchain allows us to establish when something was created, who owns it, and every single move that it made. So we're going to talk a little bit more about blockchain here in the future. So how does owned identity come into play in Web 3? Most services we interact with, full stop, really don't need all your personal information. They claim it so you can access your account, which isn't a lie, but at the end of the day, they really just want to market to you. They want to sell you shit you don't need or want. These companies also play very fast and loose with your data. How many of you have received an email saying there's been a data breach at a company that you transacted with? But don't worry, because you're going to get a free year of Experian to make sure that anybody who's accessed your information, opened up a credit card, took out a home loan, don't worry, you'll be able to spot that on your credit report. Personally, I'd rather just not have to deal with it at all. But that's not the world that we live in right now. But this is where we're going. And in GDPR, if you request that your data be removed, or if you ask for a record of your data, if somebody gets back to you, you still have to trust that they follow through with it. Why do we have to keep trusting people to do the right thing, or that they've even done their jobs? So with owned identity, we hold all the cards. I can permission you as an operator to see certain data about myself, and I can take it away as I see fit. So again, let's look specifically at the iGaming industry. In most countries, you really don't need to give them all your personal information. You have to tick boxes. How old are you? Have you passed an AML and KYC check? Where are you physically located, and are you on any sort of exclusion list? In a world where you own your own ID, you are literally 2 clicks away from being onboarded into any operator that utilizes this system. Because that data is already stored on your device. It's stored in a wallet, very similar to your cryptocurrency. And it's already been verified by a trusted third party. How did it get verified? Great question. Let's walk through that workflow. I sign up with owned ID provider A. I won't use our particular name just because we haven't trademarked it yet, and some of you look like you're in the mood to steal some IP here. So I include my credentials for my ID into this particular service. I scan in my ID, front and back, and I add in biometric data about myself. A trusted third party then verifies this data to ensure that, yes, it is me, the biometric data matches up, and they send me back a unique signature that lives on the blockchain and in turn in my wallet. Anytime this user goes to interact with an operator that allows for this type of ID verification system, the user would connect their wallet, very similar as you would with MetaMask connecting to any other service. The operator can check to see what boxes the user ticks. Are you over the age of 16 to play bingo, if I remember correctly, in the UK? Over 18 or 21 in certain states and countries? Have you been convicted of money laundering or suspected of known terrorism? I've yet to see that one show up. And because we personally bake geolocation into our service, we can tell you where the person physically is within a matter of feet. And to complete that verification, the user then provides that required biometric data to ensure that the credentials that were previously verified are in fact them. This literally happens in a matter of seconds. On top of streamlining the onboarding process, Owned ID also protects operators from self-excluded players, no matter where on the globe they play. Because of the immutable blockchain, if a user excludes themselves, that goes on chain. It means that on a Monday, if they decide they've got a problem, and on Tuesday they don't, and they think they'll just use a different name, a different email address, whatever it may be, maybe even play in a different state, if states are not sharing data, they think they can then go ahead and continue to play. When it's on-chain, though, it's publicly available. Any operator utilizing this service can go, you just yesterday said you had a problem, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to take that time out that you requested. Every operator that utilizes a system like this now knows beyond a reasonable doubt that every player who's entering their system is, in fact, allowed to be able to play. That's a massive win from a compliance perspective. You see, Owned ID isn't just about the metaverse or Web3 or pick your favorite buzzword. It's really about giving the customer agency. It's about limiting compliance exposure for operators or anyone else that collects data from their users. An Owned ID is not a pie-in-the-sky idea. It's happening right now. And the companies that get on the bandwagon to be able to integrate this type of infrastructure into their systems will be able to reap the benefits regardless if Web3 ever makes it out of buzzword bingo. And with 42 seconds, I'm Phil Runyan from NiftyCo. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.